AI is quietly dismantling traditional accountability in decision-making. This isn't just a tech story. It's a fundamental change in who takes responsibility for actions. Companies and governments are shifting blame onto algorithms to avoid scrutiny. That shift impacts your daily life, from the loans you get to the justice you receive. Your ability to challenge decisions is eroding without you realizing it. Understanding this shift is critical to protecting your rights. What follows is a clear breakdown of how AI is rewriting the rules of accountability. By the way, this channel shares one bold insight like this every week. If this perspective is useful, consider subscribing. Artificial intelligence is no longer a futuristic concept. It's embedded in critical decision-making processes across finance, healthcare, criminal justice, and corporate governance. This shift matters right now because AI systems are making or heavily influencing choices that traditionally required human judgment, and with that, human accountability. The conventional framework where individuals or organizations are held responsible for decisions is breaking down. When an AI-driven algorithm denies a loan, recommends a medical treatment, or flags someone as a security risk, the lines of accountability blur. Who's truly responsible? The engineer who designed the algorithm, the company that deployed it, or the AI system itself? Most people misunderstand this as a mere transfer of responsibility or a simple delegation of tasks to technology. They assume accountability just migrates up the chain or that AI acts as a neutral tool. Neither is true. The reality is more insidious. AI creates a black box of decision-making, where accountability evaporates. When decisions come from complex algorithms built on proprietary code and massive, often opaque datasets, nobody outside the inner circle can fully scrutinize how or why those choices were made. This opacity doesn't just protect companies from liability, it actively disempowers individuals from contesting or understanding decisions that affect their lives. It's not just a technical hurdle. It's a power shift that centralizes control in the hands of AI owners and developers who can claim trade secrets or complexity as shields against transparency. This dynamic fuels a dangerous feedback loop. As AI systems control more high-stakes decisions, organizations have less incentive to maintain clear lines of responsibility or explainability. Why invest in accountability mechanisms when you can hide behind algorithmic complexity? This undermines legal and ethical norms that require clear chains of responsibility. Courts, regulators, and watchdogs struggle to keep up, often forced to rely on expert testimony or incomplete disclosures, which weakens enforcement. The result? A legal gray zone where harms caused by AI, discrimination, wrongful denials, or privacy violations go unresolved or unpunished. Moreover, this shift redefines power relationships between individuals and institutions. Traditional accountability allowed people to hold companies or officials directly responsible and demand redress. AI obscures that relationship, creating distance and confusion that favors institutional inertia. It exacerbates existing inequalities because marginalized groups are less likely to have the resources or knowledge to challenge AI decisions effectively. The lack of transparency and accountability isn't just a technical problem. It's a mechanism that entrenches systemic biases and widens social disparities under the guise of objectivity. Another overlooked consequence is how AI accountability, or the lack thereof, affects innovation incentives. Companies may prioritize rapid deployment of AI systems over thorough testing and ethical considerations because the diffuse accountability structure reduces immediate risks. This accelerates the integration of flawed or biased AI into critical systems, increasing the chances of widespread negative impacts before any corrective measures can catch up. In essence, the erosion of accountability short-circuits the feedback loop necessary for responsible innovation, creating a landscape where risks accumulate unchecked. Finally, there's a geopolitical angle. Nations with less stringent accountability standards for AI can deploy these technologies aggressively on the global stage without facing the same legal or moral constraints. This creates uneven playing fields in international markets and governance frameworks. Countries prioritizing transparency and accountability may find themselves at a competitive disadvantage, pressured to loosen oversight to keep pace. The global race for AI dominance could thus drive a race to the bottom on accountability, undermining human rights and democratic norms worldwide. This erosion of accountability also reshapes labor dynamics in profound ways. As AI systems increasingly make frontline decisions, frontline workers lose autonomy and become mere cogs executing algorithmic commands. This shift concentrates decision-making power away from human employees and toward AI vendors and corporate executives who control these systems. It weakens worker protections by removing the human element that could otherwise question or push back against unethical or harmful decisions. In industries like healthcare or finance, where frontline judgment is crucial, this not only devalues expertise, but also creates vulnerable points where errors or biases baked into AI go unnoticed or unchallenged, leading to systemic failures that are harder to trace back to any accountable party. Additionally, the widespread adoption of AI-driven decision-making threatens to degrade public trust in institutions. When people repeatedly face opaque rejections or unexplained judgments from AI systems, skepticism grows, not just towards technology, but towards the organizations that deploy them. This distrust can spill over into civic disengagement, where individuals feel alienated from systems meant to serve them. Over time, this disconnect erodes the social contract between citizens and institutions, making it difficult to build consensus around regulations or reforms. In essence, the opacity and unaccountability of AI systems risk deepening societal fractures by fostering cynicism and resentment, rather than cooperation and trust. The shift also complicates data governance and privacy in unexpected ways. AI systems rely on vast troves of personal data, but when accountability is diluted, there's less incentive for organizations to handle data responsibly. Without clear lines of responsibility, breaches or misuse of data can occur without meaningful consequences, emboldening bad actors and increasing risks of surveillance or discrimination. This dynamic incentivizes a collect now, justify later approach to data collection, undermining privacy norms and leaving individuals exposed to exploitation without effective recourse. On a systemic level, the opacity and fragmented responsibility in AI decision-making make regulatory frameworks obsolete before they're even implemented. Policymakers struggle with crafting laws that can keep pace with rapidly evolving AI technologies, especially when the decision processes they aim to regulate are deliberately shielded behind layers of complexity and secrecy. This regulatory lag empowers dominant tech players who can dictate the terms of compliance and accountability, effectively writing their own rulebooks. The consequence is a governance vacuum where public interest is sidelined and innovation serves corporate agendas rather than societal well-being. Lastly, the way AI accountability, or its absence, is normalized sets dangerous precedents for other emerging technologies. If society accepts blurred responsibility in AI, it implicitly lowers standards for accountability across the board, from biotech to autonomous weapons. This normalization risks creating a culture where technological advancement routinely outpaces ethical or legal considerations, leaving critical decisions unchecked. Over time, this could erode foundational principles like transparency, justice, and human dignity, making it harder to push back against future abuses when they inevitably arise. The rise of AI in decision-making doesn't just shift how choices are made, it fundamentally disrupts who is held responsible. When algorithms dictate outcomes, human accountability becomes murky, creating a dangerous gap where blame can be evaded. This isn't just a technical challenge, it's a crisis in governance and ethics. Organizations outsourcing judgment to AI risk eroding trust, as stakeholders struggle to identify who answers for mistakes or biases baked into these systems. The trade-off is clear. Efficiency and scale come at the cost of transparency and control. Ignoring this tension invites systemic failures with real-world consequences, from wrongful convictions to discriminatory hiring. Society must confront that integrating AI into decision-making isn't neutral. It reallocates power and liability, often shielding human actors behind layers of code. Accountability frameworks must evolve, or we accept a future where responsibility becomes too diffuse to enforce or demand.